She was the only woman in a unit built to break men, a ghost from classified missions they swore never existed. When her past resurfaces in a storm of betrayal, secret ops, and buried lies, she discovers the truth. The real mission was her. They say silence has weight. I felt it pressing against my shoulders the moment I stepped into the formation at Falcons Point Naval Training Center in Ashridge, Oregon. 20 men stood rigid, faces carved from stone, each one a SEAL candidate handpicked for the Advanced Special Warfare Leadership Program. And then there was me, the only woman. I took my place at the far end, my boots snapping into alignment with theirs. My stance, impeccable. Still, I could feel it, the disapproval, the disbelief, rolling off them like heat from tarmac. No one said a word, but their eyes said plenty. And then, the Admiral approached. Rear Admiral Silas Trent walked the line slowly, like a predator sizing up prey. At 62, he still carried the menace of someone who'd survived hell and came back with scars and ribbons to prove it. He stopped 3 feet from me. I held my ground. "State your call sign," he said, his voice smooth, cold. It was a trap. Call signs aren't assigned until the culmination ceremony, after you've earned them. He knew I didn't have one. Everyone knew. The pause was meant to make me hesitate, make me flinch. A public stumble. He was daring me to prove I didn't belong. But I didn't blink. "Iron Raven," I said evenly. A crack echoed as the ceremonial glass in his hand slipped and shattered on the concrete. The other operators froze. The nickname, the myth, had just materialized in front of them. Whispers of a classified operator with no face, no rank, just a trail of impossible missions. Suddenly, I wasn't just the woman who'd invaded their circle. I was a ghost. A story come to life. No one spoke. No one laughed. Not anymore. The morning sun crept over the compound's clean lines and sharp edges, casting long shadows across the field. Rear Admiral Trent moved on, his face a storm barely contained. Commander Julian Cross, the program lead, stepped forward to brief us. "Today's evolution is maritime extraction. 15 miles offshore. Full combat load. Retrieve the package, return without compromise." It was a brutal exercise, normally reserved for the end of the program, not day 15. They'd advanced the schedule. I didn't need a briefing to know why. They were hoping I'd break. As we broke formation, someone shoulder-checked me. "Hope you can swim, Raven," muttered Lieutenant Axel Kane, team leader for Squad 1. I gave no response. Just adjusted my gear, noting the extra weight someone had slipped into my left side vest. 2 pounds, maybe more. Just enough to throw off my balance in the water. I rebalanced it myself. Quietly. Inside the prep bay, I caught a glimpse of someone watching me. Commander Dahlia Voss, Naval Intelligence. The kind of woman who didn't speak unless it mattered. She nodded once. I returned it. Nothing more needed to be said. We both knew the stakes. Minutes later, a comms tech handed me a secured tablet. Eyes-only transmission. I scanned the encrypted message, memorized its content, and handed it back. My posture straightened slightly. Orders had arrived. Outside, helicopter rotors thundered. We boarded in tight formation, gear clicking, faces grim. 15 miles out, the sea was restless under thick, gray skies. Waves clawed at the platform we were to infiltrate. An old oil rig turned training ground. Kane's team dropped into the water first. My squad followed 30 seconds later. I led the descent, though I wasn't officially the team leader. Underwater, I spoke in hand signals, faster, sharper than the ones taught in SEAL school. Lieutenant Nova Ree, the youngest of us, caught on quickly. I saw his eyes narrow, registering that what I was doing wasn't regulation. Not quite. We reached the submerged access point. I signaled a single gesture and slipped inside alone. It was flooded, dark, a maze of beams and sensors. I moved through it like I had built it myself, avoiding each motion sensor's field like I knew their pattern. I did. I had studied systems like this in places that didn't exist on any map. I reached the target package, just as Kane's team emerged from the other side. He grinned behind his rebreather, hand reaching for the case. I moved. A swirl of water. A redirected current. Just enough to cloud his field of view. In seconds, my team had the package, and Kane's was chasing a phantom. We surfaced first. We extracted cleanly. Back on the ship, Admiral Trent reviewed the data. The time difference between teams was negligible, he said coolly. Your methods were unconventional. Sir, the mission's objective was successful extraction. We achieved it. His eyes narrowed. Protocols exist for a reason, Lieutenant Commander. I met his gaze. Calm. Unflinching. Yes, sir. Understood. But I wasn't playing by his rules. Not anymore. To be continued. By nightfall, the base was quiet again. Recruits asleep. Lights dimmed. But I wasn't asleep. I was never asleep when I was supposed to be. Instead, I stood on the catwalk above the obstacle course, watching the fog roll in from the sea. The Pacific crept quietly along the shore, brushing up against concrete like it had secrets to tell. I was listening. Always listening. Behind me, soft footfalls approached. I didn't turn. You led the extraction today. Commander Dahlia Voss's voice was low, firm. I nodded. Admiral Trent wasn't pleased. I noticed. She stepped beside me, arms folded, gaze distant. You'll never win by his playbook. I'm not trying to win. Just trying to finish what I started. That earned a glance from her. Then you know what you're up against. I did. When I left the team 6 years ago, I didn't disappear because I wanted to. They buried the truth beneath so many layers of clearance, even I forgot who I was for a while. But the moment that tablet pinged with my name, my real one, I knew the past had found me again. There was a reason I was back. 2 nights later, our next assignment came through, Live Capture Op. 2 targets, simulated insurgents, embedded in a ghost town 40 miles inland. Urban terrain. 0 comms. Objective. Breach, capture, exfil, clean. They split us into 4-man teams. I was placed with Kane. Predictable. His smugness oozed through every word. You good with doors, Raven? He asked, slapping a breaching charge into his rucksack. I'm better with people who hide behind them, I replied. Novari chuckled under his breath. The others didn't. The Chinook dumped us under moonlight and vanished into the sky. Buildings loomed like bones. Broken windows. Faded signs. It was the kind of place that whispered traps. Kane took point, of course. I let him. But when we hit the first structure, I stepped forward. Negative, I said, pointing to the northwest wall. Breaching there will collapse the stairwell. This side. No supports. Kane scoffed. Since when did you become structural command? Since Riyadh, I said quietly. He blinked, then hesitated. I moved past him. Set the charge myself. Entered first. Room clear. Stairwell intact. Target 1, secured. Target 2 ran. He shouldn't have. We caught him on the rooftop, trying to signal with a flare. Nova tackled him hard. The man screamed something in broken English. I caught enough of it. You're the Raven. You shouldn't exist. That froze me. Kane heard it too. He narrowed his eyes at me. You want to explain that? Nope. We extracted. Debriefed. Clean. But the message lingered. Someone on the outside still remembered me. And worse, they were watching. The next morning, a manila envelope arrived on my bunk. No sender. Inside, 1 photo. A grainy shot taken through binoculars. Me, standing on that rooftop. Holding the flare. On the back, 1 line. Echo has eyes. To be continued. I didn't report the envelope. Not because I didn't trust command, though I didn't, but because I knew exactly who had sent it. Echo wasn't a code word. It was a message, a signature, and it meant someone I used to run missions with was still alive and still hunting. The only problem? Echo was supposed to be dead. I saw the satellite feed. I read the after-action reports. I buried what was left of her with my own hands. So who the hell sent the photo? That night, I requested early access to the data vaults under the guise of analyzing drone telemetry. The operator on duty barely looked up as I logged in. I didn't need much. Just enough to pull archived field logs from Op Greystone, the last mission I ever ran. I shouldn't have had access, but I'd once rewritten the systems that guarded this place. My clearance was just a ghost key now, no alarms, no flags. Just a clean path into the dark. I opened the files. It took seconds for the memories to rush back. Me, Echo, Kestrel, Booth. All of us dropped into a no-fly zone in Kazakhstan, tasked with shutting down a mobile data core, transmitting nuclear site blueprints to a foreign agency. Echo was the asset handler. Brilliant, silent, ruthless. A chameleon in any crowd. And she was my friend. But someone betrayed us. The evac was sabotaged. The last thing I saw was Echo taking a hit to the chest, tumbling into the ravine as flames swallowed the uplink tower. The explosion cracked our unit in half. Booth was killed. Kestrel went dark. I disappeared into the hills, wounded, radio shredded. 2 weeks later, I emerged alone, and they erased the operation. No names. No medals. Just ghosts. And now? She was back. I closed the file. Outside, the compound was silent, save for distant gunfire echoing from the range. I moved across the lot toward my bunk when I saw it. Another envelope, tucked under my door. Inside, another photo. This one older. A young woman, early 20s, laughing beside a burned-out Jeep in the mountains. My face. But I had no memory of it. On the back, "You left more behind than you remember." It wasn't Echo's handwriting. Someone else was pulling strings. The next training op was a halo jump, 30,000 feet over the Sierra training zone. Nighttime drop. Low oxygen. No lights. I checked my rig 3 times. Then once more. Kane was 2 places ahead of me in the line. He didn't speak, but I caught him glancing at me when he thought I wasn't looking. Not with suspicion. Something else. Maybe doubt. Maybe fear. We jumped on command. The wind was a roar of knives. The earth spun below like a secret waiting to be uncovered. I counted down to pull, then froze. My altimeter wasn't reading. I yanked hard. Nothing. Reserve shoot. Delayed. Then, snap. The canopy caught wind, slamming me back. I hit the ground hard, ribs bruised, hands bloodied. But I was alive, and someone had tampered with my gear. To be continued. The moment I hit the ground, I went still, listening. My body screamed in protest, lungs burning from the freefall, but I didn't move. Not until I was certain the others were down. One by one, shoots bloomed in the night sky, far too distant from mine. That wasn't coincidence. I'd been dropped 5 seconds later. Just enough to shift my trajectory. Just enough to land me isolated in the dark. Deliberate. I pulled myself to my feet, biting back pain, and scanned the tree-line. This wasn't part of the exercise. My radio crackled with routine chatter. Squad Alpha, secure perimeter. Echo 2, confirm package location, but no one noticed my absence. No check-in request. No acknowledgement. Not even from command. They were either unaware or complicit. I started moving. The terrain was brutal. Jagged rock outcroppings sliced through the earth like forgotten teeth. The map said this was Sierra Zone 3, but my boots told me otherwise. This place had been scrubbed from official records. I'd operated in areas like this before, where satellites blinked out and missions never got logged. After 40 minutes on foot, I reached a hollow tree burned black by lightning. Inside, a motion-activated sat beacon. I tapped it with a code I hadn't used in 6 years. It lit up green. Only 2 people in the world knew that beacon existed. Me and Echo. I backed away, senses sharp. Too late. A branch snapped behind me. I spun, rifle raised, but no one was there. Except, something fluttered at my feet. A ribbon. Torn, military-grade silk. The kind used to mark cleared zones. On it, scrawled in ink, "You never finished Greystone." The trap had teeth. I slung my rifle and began tracing a path east, toward a low ridge that should give me high ground. Every instinct I'd ever sharpened screamed this was bait. Every step took me closer anyway. At the ridge, I found it. A small fire burned low in a clearing. Someone was waiting beside it, unarmed, in shadow. I raised my weapon. "Don't move." The figure didn't flinch, just lifted their hands slowly. And then, with one motion, they removed their hood. Echo. No bulletproof vest. No rifle. Just the same calm, measured expression she'd always worn, like she'd never left that ravine. Her face was thinner. A scar traced her left jaw. But the eyes? Still sharp. Still impossible. "I knew you'd find me," she said. I lowered the rifle an inch. "You should be dead. So should you." Silence stretched between us. Finally, she tossed something into the dirt, a small data drive, military issue, cracked and worn. "What is it?" I asked. She met my eyes. "Proof. The reason they're trying to erase you again." I pocketed it. "Why now?" Her answer was soft. "Because they've restarted Greystone. But this time, they're not hunting data." I narrowed my gaze. "What are they hunting?" She hesitated, then said 2 words. "You and me." To be continued. The fire between us crackled softly, but I couldn't feel its warmth. My pulse was too steady, too slow. That always happened when things got real, when the veil dropped and I stepped back into the version of myself they tried to bury. Echo sat cross-legged, watching the flames like they were going to answer something. She looked exactly how I remembered, except she was smaller now. Not in size, in weight. Like the world had taken pieces of her and never returned them. You never called in, I said. There was no one left to call. You had me. Echo's jaw clenched. Not after that mission. Not after the order came down to mark you Kia if you surfaced. That stopped me cold. I stood slowly. They classified me as dead? Of course they did. They had to. You went off-grid with the only uncorrupted copy of the core logs. That made you the biggest liability in the hemisphere. And you didn't warn me? I tried, she said, and her voice cracked just enough to remind me she was still human. I left the drop at Kabul. You never picked it up. I remembered the envelope, burned before I could reach it. And I remembered something else. Commander Voss. She had eyes on that site before I did. Could she have intercepted it? I didn't say it aloud. Not yet. Instead, I pulled out the drive she'd given me and plugged it into my secure reader. Images flickered across the small screen. Satellite intercepts, biometric scans, orders signed by names I thought were long retired. And then, a folder titled Vanguard Echo, Phase 2. I tapped it open. There, in clean text, the plan. A joint operation between 3 deep state programs. Objective: silence all remaining Echo-class operatives before election cycle. Contingency: activate internal assets for final suppression if targets remain active. Below that, my name, her name, a list of former allies. All marked, red, unresolved. I leaned back. They're not just cleaning up, I said. No, Echo replied. They're rewriting the past. One operator at a time. We sat there, silence thick as smoke. Then I said what we both knew was coming. We can't stay hidden. She nodded. Agreed. Then we need to get ahead of this. Blow it open. Echo tilted her head. You still think truth matters? No, I said. But fear does. And if we scare the right people hard enough, they'll tear each other apart trying to cover it up. She grinned, and for a brief second, it felt like the old days again. But we'll need allies, she warned. I've got one in mind, I said. But he's not going to like seeing me. Who? Commander Julian Cross. Her smile vanished. You're serious? He's been working under Admiral Trent too long not to have doubts. Echo stared at me. Last I heard, Cross called you a mistake. He did, I replied. Right before I saved his life in Marrakesh. I stood. Let's go rattle some cages. We moved under cover of darkness, cutting back toward the extraction zone Echo had mapped days earlier. She'd been living near the base for weeks, off-grid, using old intel networks to track movement patterns, guard shifts, satellite blind spots. It was all still in her head, like she never left the game. Back at Falcon's Point, I cleaned up and slipped through the east perimeter just before 0400. The guards didn't stop me. I'd built a reputation for insomnia and pre-dawn training. No one questioned it. In my bunk, I found a sealed envelope tucked beneath my pillow. You're running out of time. No name. No initials. Just that. I burned it immediately. BIOS 600. I was standing outside Commander Julian Cross's office in Building 9, freshly uniformed, hair tight, every inch the good soldier. I knocked once. Enter. He didn't look up as I stepped inside. Lieutenant Commander. Sir. He waved me toward the chair across from his desk, eyes still glued to the digital files streaming across his tablet. His office was immaculate, not a paper out of place, medals arranged by operation, not decoration. But his fingers, they trembled. Barely. You've stirred the pot, he said finally. I didn't realize it was still boiling. He looked up at that, locking eyes with me. Don't play dumb, Raven. You're not good at it. I said nothing. He leaned forward. You think you're the only one they tried to bury? I have a drawer full of names they told me to forget. Operators who retired early, agents who vanished during transition, classified heroes who suddenly stopped existing. Echo's alive, I said. He didn't even flinch. She told me about Vanguard Phase 2. He closed his eyes. God help us. I need access to the internal logs. The ones stored offline. Phase 2 directives. Initiator codes. All of it. You're asking me to betray a sitting admiral. No, sir. I'm telling you he already betrayed you. You just didn't see the knife. That landed. He stood, walked to the corner safe, and keyed in a biometric code. It clicked open. From inside, he pulled a single black box. He placed it between us. This is the last terminal I control without Trent's oversight. Inside, there's a list. Every Echo-class operative still alive. 4 of you. I scrolled. For names. Mine. Echo. A name I didn't recognize. Calder 6. And one that made my blood run cold. Nova Re. He's a plant, I whispered. Cross nodded. He wasn't supposed to activate until Phase 2's kill command went live. But seeing you here, something must have triggered an early call. I looked up. He's been watching me since day 1. Cross's face hardened. Then we're out of time. He handed me a hard drive. This holds the communication key you'll need to access the black site servers. But once you plug in, they'll know. No more hiding. We're done hiding, I said. He gave a dry laugh. God, you sound like her. Who? He hesitated. Echo. Before she vanished, she said the same thing. They can't bury what won't stop digging. I pocketed the drive. Before I could leave, Cross said quietly, for what it's worth, Raven, I knew you weren't a mistake. I nodded. Let's make sure they know it too. We met Echo an hour before dawn near the old lighthouse outside the south fence. Neutral ground, the kind no satellite cared about. She didn't speak at first, just nodded once when she saw the hard drive in my hand. Cross came through, I said. Echo took it, slipped it into a field device that looked like it had been pieced together from scavenged agency junk. Secure, untraceable, perfect. I'm running the cipher now. When it finishes, we'll have one shot to breach their comms firewall. And after that, we move. Fast. I paced the gravel by the edge of the cliff. Below us, waves hammered the rocks. There were no ships. No rescue. Just wind and time. We've got a 4th operative on the list, I said. Calder 6. Echo stopped typing. You sure? He's listed under the Vanguard files. No location. No status. Just unverified. Her voice went tight. Calder was our demolitions lead on Greystone. We lost him in the tunnels. Maybe not. She didn't speak again for a long while. When the device beeped, she handed it over. It's clean. We can hit the uplink through the abandoned telemetry shack on Ridge 11. After that, it's a race. Nova Re, I said. What about him? He's activated. They flagged him for Phase 2. He's embedded in the program as a sleeper. Watching. Maybe worse. Echo looked out at the water. Then we take care of him first. No, I said, shaking my head. We let him come to us. If we move now, they'll know we're onto him. But if he thinks we're still in the dark, he'll make his move. Echo finished. Exactly. We split. Echo moved toward the ridge. I returned to Falcon's Point. By mid-morning, I was back in the range bay, cleaning rifles. Nova approached quietly, leaning against the bench with that calm smirk he always wore when he thought no one could touch him. Hell of a shot yesterday, he said. You were off by 3 degrees. He laughed. Not everyone's you. I didn't reply. He eyed me. You ever wonder why they picked you for this program? All the politics. The whisper campaigns. A woman in Tier 1 leadership. You're more of a statement than a strategy. I cleaned the bolt with practiced calm. You always talk this much before you try to kill someone? His smile faltered just a fraction. I think you're tired, he said. Maybe you need some rest. I think you're stalling. I replied, finally meeting his eyes. Waiting for a signal that never came. He stepped back. You don't know what you're part of. I know enough. I know Phase 2 is live. And I know they sent you to finish what Greystone couldn't. Nova reached for his sidearm. I moved faster. In one motion, I spun the rifle around and cracked the buttstock into his wrist. The weapon dropped. I followed with a knee to his gut, a twist, a throw. He hit the deck hard, gasping. A knife clattered from his boot. Who sent the kill order? I asked, pressing my foot to his throat. He just smiled. You were supposed to be a ghost. I leaned closer. Ghosts don't die easy. He blacked out seconds later. We dumped Nova's unconscious body in a supply container near the motor pool, temporary holding until we could decide what to do with him. Echo had already looped the surveillance feeds. No one saw a thing. You sure he's alone? She asked as she sealed the container. No, I admitted. But I think he was low tier. A probe. To see if I'd break before they sent someone real. She nodded, but I could see the unease in her eyes. Nova was just the beginning. That night, we made the climb to Ridge 11. The telemetry shack sat crooked on rusted stilts, its antenna bent from years of weather abuse. Inside, dust choked every surface. The uplink port still glowed faintly. Someone had been using it recently. That meant the command network still pulsed through this place like a hidden vein. I plugged in the drive. The screen flickered, then scrolled. command logs, activation protocols, asset movements. And then, something new. A memo, dated 2 days ago. Initiate closure, subject IR-06. Escalate to Tier 0 response. Authorization, Trent/Voss. Echo leaned over my shoulder. That's your file. And yours. Below the directive, an attached video feed loaded. Grainy footage from inside a transport cell. Nova. He was speaking directly to a camera. She's not supposed to be alive. The Echo initiative terminated her in Kazakhstan. If you're seeing this, you've failed. Echo narrowed her eyes. He recorded this before coming in. He never planned to walk away, I said quietly. She tapped the screen again. Wait, back it up. I rewound 5 seconds. In the corner of the frame, barely visible, a wall marker, Tango Black. Sector 17. Trent's base, she whispered. That's where they're holding the others. The rest of the Echo list? Echo nodded. Or what's left of it. We packed up. We go tonight, I said. You sure? I've never been more. We moved fast. Avoided main roads. Bio 300, we reached the cliff line above Tango Black. What we saw? Massive underground doors. A facility camouflaged as a weather station. Guards. Infrared towers. One inbound convoy. They weren't moving people. They were disposing of them. At the far end, under canvas sheets, lined in rows. Body bags. I pulled the scope in tighter. One bag twitched. Alive, I hissed. Echo's jaw tightened. Then we're out of time. I handed her the sat phone. Call Cross. Tell him to sound the fire drill. He'll get court-martialed. Not if we don't leave survivors. She gave me a look. You've changed. I chambered around. No. I just stopped waiting for permission. We descended into hell with steel in our hearts. The alarm went off at 0317. A fire drill, disguised under Emergency Protocol Delta 4. Falcon's Point had trained under it, but Tango Black hadn't. It sowed just enough confusion to scatter the outer security. We hit the first checkpoint in under 3 minutes. Silence takedowns. Echo took left, I took right. Their comms weren't scrambled, just too slow to respond to their own chaos. We slipped through like shadows. Inside the underground complex, everything was stark concrete and steel. No insignias, no names, just long, cold corridors that smelled like bleach and secrets. We reached the loading bay where the body bags had been stacked. 6 were gone. 2 still twitched. I dropped to the closest one, sliced it open with a utility knife. Inside, a man gasped for breath. Eyes wide, blood drying at the corner of his mouth. Calder? I asked. He blinked once, then nodded. Echo moved to the second bag. Another Echo. This one's barely conscious. They're sedating and burning them alive, Calder rasped. To erase everything. We're getting you out, I said. No, he whispered, grabbing my wrist. You need to reach sublevel 2. There's a core drive. It has the operation tree, every black site, every name, even Trent's backups. It's the kill switch. Echo glanced at me. We split. I nodded. You extract him. I'll go. She hesitated. You'll be alone. I cracked a faint smile. I'm always alone. I moved. Down 2 levels, the air grew colder. Cameras watched every corner, but I stayed in the blind spots. Years of training converged into instinct. I was a ghost moving through a tomb. Then, I reached the server room. 2 guards. Silent takedown. No alarms. I slid the drive into the port. A green light blinked. Download. In progress. That's when the door slammed shut behind me. I turned. Admiral Silas Trent stood just inside the room, sidearm drawn, finger poised. You should have stayed dead, he said. Too late, I replied. He stepped forward. I built this to protect the country. You think you're doing the right thing, but you're just another ghost with a martyr complex. You built this to erase accountability, I said. To erase us. Collateral damage. I didn't give him a speech. I just moved. He fired. Missed. I lunged. We hit the floor hard. His gun skittered across the tiles. He grabbed my neck. I headbutted him. His grip loosened. I rolled, elbowed hard into his ribs, and reached for my blade. The same one Echo had given me years ago in the field. I plunged it into his shoulder. He screamed. I'm not your ghost, I said. I'm your reckoning. I grabbed the drive, slipped past the lock override, and vanished into the shadows. The extraction came fast and dirty. By the time I reached the surface, Echo had returned with a second evac route, an old helipad buried behind a communications array. Calder was barely able to stand, blood loss stealing the color from his face. Echo rigged a makeshift stretcher using combat webbing. We had 6 minutes until the site went into full lockdown. The drive pulsed against my chest in its protective casing. Everything we needed was inside: names, faces, orders. Not just Vanguard Echo, but Red Line, Black Viper, and over 30 off-books operations no one had dared speak of in over a decade, all hidden behind a wall of national interest and digital firewalls. We made the pad. Above us, the faint thump of rotors emerged from the cloud cover. Not military. Civilian shell, no markings. Cross had come through again. The bird touched down hard. "Go!" I yelled. Echo hauled Calder aboard. I stepped in last, then slammed the hatch shut as we lifted off. Below, Tango Black grew smaller, then brighter. A fire bloomed from inside its southern wing. Controlled burn. Someone had triggered a failsafe to erase what we hadn't taken. Too late. The data was ours. 30 miles out, we crossed into open airspace. I handed the drive to Echo. "Encrypt this. Send copies to every outlet with backbone." "And if they silence them all?" she asked. "They won't," I said. "We've given them something more dangerous than proof." "What's that?" "Fear." Echo nodded. "You think it'll be enough?" I looked out over the coastline as the sun began to rise, slicing through the clouds like a blade. Below, the world kept turning, unaware that the lies protecting it had cracked open. "No," I said, "but it's a start." Epilogue. The footage went public 72 hours later. Encrypted caches surfaced in 4 countries. Black site documents. Operation logs. Video testimony from agents long thought dead. Congress scrambled. Trent disappeared. A dozen brass names resigned within a week. Commander Cross was arrested, then quietly released. As for Novari, vanished. Ghosted just like we had once been. He'd surface again. They always do. Echo and I went dark. We left no addresses, no trails. Because people like us don't get retirements. We don't get medals or parades. Just silence. Just shadows. But every now and then, I catch a signal. A flash of the old call sign on a scrambled channel. Iron Raven. Still flying. Still watching. Still free. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.